Erin Corwin went for a romantic hike in the middle of nowhere and fell off the face of the earth, literally. The mystery of the missing 19-year-old pregnant Marine wife. Did she get lost in the vast California desert?
Erin could get lost in a closet very easily.
Did she run away from a marriage on the rocks?
Maybe she did just leave.
Or was Erin the victim of a rage-filled Romeo in a love triangle gone wrong?
She was the secret that didn't want to be a secret, so he had to get rid of it.
Erin's journey to the Southern California desert began right here, in this horse barn in Leafy Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
What was the name of her horse?
Her first horse's name was Autumn.
Her mom, Laura, says that's where Erin met the boy who would become her future husband, John Corwin.
His sister had a horse at the same barn that we had a horse, and they met when she was maybe 5th grade.
How did you respond? Did you immediately like him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good kid. You know, we liked him.
Erin's father, Bill, approved wholeheartedly.
John's great, quiet, but he's really a great guy.
But young love would take a back seat to Erin's all-consuming passion, horses.
She started working at 14 at a vet's office. She worked in the kennel. At one point in time, she wanted to be a vet, but then she realized she didn't want to be a vet because she didn't want to be the person to tell someone it was time to euthanize their pet.
Her best friend from grade school, Bernadette Hunt, says horses were Erin's true love.
I was actually her non-horse related friend.
Did you ever have those conversations about, when I grow up, I'm gonna be this?
Definitely, and it was always horse related to her. She talked about wanting to do something veterinary related, but she always wanted to work with horses.
As Erin matured, she realized she was in love with that boy from the horse barn, John Corwin.
I remember specifically we were sitting down in their living room once and he had kind of his arm just around her shoulders, and she was talking to me, but he couldn't stop staring at her.
Oh, that's sweet. Did you know he was the one for her at that time?
She told me that pretty soon into the relationship, he was talking about wanting to marry her.
That proposal came soon after John enlisted in the Marine Corps. He was stationed at the base in 29 Palms, California, and asked Erin to join him.
She was a huge homebody. I was concerned about her being so far away.
Laura worried that her shy daughter would have difficulty adjusting to life as a Marine wife.
She was so naive and she was so shy. I was concerned that she would get out there and not make friends.
But Erin had no problem meeting people like Aisling Maliki.
My best friend.
Speaking to Crime Watch Daily in her first national TV interview, Aisling recalls the first time she and Erin met.
She was moving stuff up to her apartment, carrying heavy boxes, and trying to carry her dog up the stairs. He's a big husky, and her tiny little self trying to carry this big husky up. And I just asked, do you want help? And she's like, no, I have to get used to it.
Erin became close with the couples in their apartment building, but one friend stood out more than the others. Another Marine who was into horses too, Chris Lee.
Chris was my husband's best friend.
Chris and Erin bonded over horses. They volunteered at this horse rescue farm in Yucca Valley. Aisling says Chris once played a sick practical joke on her husband.
He would come in the door and sneak in, walk up behind him, and then just, you know, kind of like put his arms around his neck and be like, oh, I could kill you right now. I could snap your neck and you would never know, you never see it coming.
Across the hall, Erin and John were dealing with a personal tragedy. Erin suffered a miscarriage.
Her and John kind of started getting more distance. The miscarriage definitely put a strain on them.
And Aisling says that strain quickly put Erin in the arms of another man, the Marine upstairs, Chris Lee.
I started noticing that Chris and Erin were flirting, and they would be standing close to each other. And then so when Erin pointed out that she had feelings for Chris, she thought he was attractive, and I didn't know that they were as close as they were until I came out of my bedroom and found them in my living room on Valentine's Day. I had seen them kissing on my couch. You know, Chris was leaning over Erin, and I was just kind of in disbelief. I didn't really know what to say.
Aisling said that budding affair put a chill on their friendship.
With Chris, I was just kind of like, oh, you're a scumbag, okay, that's good to know. But with Erin, I was disappointed.
And that disappointment only intensified with what should have been a happy event. Erin told friends she was pregnant again. But whose baby was it? The husband's or the boyfriend's? One brutally hot Saturday morning, Erin Corwin kissed her Marine husband John goodbye and told him she was going out for a hike. She never came home. John waited until the next day to report his pregnant wife missing. He asked her best friend, Aisling Maliki, if she knew anything.
He came downstairs, knocked on my door, and said, do you know where Erin is? She went out to Joshua Tree yesterday, and she hasn't returned since.
Erin told her husband, John, she was scouting out scenic vistas in Joshua Tree National Park because her mom, Laura, was coming to visit.
John called me that Sunday morning and said that Erin's missing. And I'm like, what do you mean Erin's missing? And he said she went out to the park to look for places for you guys to take pictures. One of my first thoughts is she's lost because she's very directionally challenged.
And shortly after Erin drove off, the Marine who lived upstairs was also leaving for Joshua Tree. Chris Lee told his wife he was going coyote hunting. But Aisling says her husband wondered, why is Lee loading a propane tank in the back of his Jeep?
He saw the propane tank in the back of the Jeep, and he had asked what he was gonna do with it. And I believe Chris's response was that he was gonna blow up a mine shaft. So he was gonna either shoot it or light it on fire. He was the type that he liked to build weapons and build knives and blow things up.
But Erin's story about hiking and Lee's story about coyote hunting were lies to cover up a secret rendezvous.
They all started out as just friends, but then they started to become more. And I didn't realize how much more they had become until I caught them in my living room.
Erin and Lee were having a love affair. But that morning, no one in the base housing saw them together. Lee returned home around 4 p.m. Erin never did. The next day, her husband John reported her missing, and the search was on. Helicopters, the U.S. Marines, and search and rescue dogs scoured Joshua Tree National Park.
We've had days of over 115 degrees. I don't know what the temperature was today, but it's extremely hot, dehydrating for our volunteers.
It's 1,200 square miles of wilderness, an area slightly larger than the state of Rhode Island, filled with beauty, beasts, and abandoned mine shafts. A place where someone could easily get lost. But searching is like trying to find a needle in 1,000 haystacks.
The places they were looking frequently, they'd have to take a helicopter to get to, because driving would take hours and hours and hours. And they felt like if they had civilians out there, then they'd be out looking for the civilians that got lost that were looking for her.
Investigators quickly find Erin's car parked in the gravel off a dirt road just outside the base. One clue definitely catches their eye. Footprints leading to tire tracks made by another vehicle.
We are also looking at it as a potential criminal investigation, so we don't want to destroy any evidence that we may be able to recover.
Cops zero in on John because he waited until the next day to report Erin missing. After an investigation, he is cleared of any involvement. But they soon discover texts between Erin and a friend named Jessie from her hometown of Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
They talk to Jessie and find out that Erin's supposedly going out into the desert with him.
The him in the text? Chris Lee.
So it kind of put up a red flag, and then that's when this other deputy said this is more than a missing person case.
In those texts, Erin said she thought Lee was going to propose. After all, he supposedly knew she was carrying his child. She wrote, "Seriously, I don't know why he would drag me to a very special place for a big dumb surprise." Her friend asked if he was going to pop the question. Erin replied with lots of exclamation marks. Maybe. Yet no one really knew for certain if the baby was Lee's. Either man cops believed could have motive to want her gone. Aisling says Lee talked about killing like it was a big joke.
Chris said that he was gonna hide a body and would snap necks. You know, you could put the body down, cover it with dirt, and then put the coyote on top and bury that. So if they ever came across it, they would dig it up and think it was just someone coyote hunting. I don't have any other friends that talk about how they're gonna hide a body or how they're gonna kill somebody. I watch crime shows, but I never sit there and think, oh, that would be a good way to kill somebody, or that would be a good way to get away with murder.
San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies bring Chris Lee in.
I thought I was in love with her, but it was just that make-believe.
Under their relentless questioning, he admits to only one thing: the affair.
Over time, we started getting closer, having longer conversations, and then we kissed a few times at her place, and then my wife, she found out, and she blew up, and she told John. And
how many times did you guys kiss?
4 tops.
Okay. So you guys kissed 4 times. Did anything else happen other than kissing?
No.
Okay. Any touching, groping?
Maybe some hands up and down where we're kissing, but nothing real heavy.
Okay.
Nothing under clothes or anything like that.
Lee claims they hooked up after Erin told him her husband John was abusive.
She was in a bad relationship, and she said her husband was beating her and choking her, and she was scared for her life. And I guess she didn't lie to me, she didn't lie to John, didn't lie to her friends.
Lying to you about what?
When she was in a bad relationship, that it was all John's fault.
There's no evidence that John ever was abusive to Erin, and he denies Lee's outrageous claim. And Lee denies even talking to Erin that day, or even that month, claiming they broke it off after his wife caught them.
Me and Erin just stopped talking.
Okay, so that was how long ago?
A month and a half ago.
Have you talked to Erin since that day?
No. I'd see her and John every now and then outside.
The detective doesn't believe him. He dramatically grabs Lee's bare knee.
Chris, I need you to tell me the truth. I need to know why you met with her.
They intensely stare each other down.
There's no reason to lie to me right now. There's no reason to lie to me right now.
I didn't see her on Saturday. I just saw her vehicle.
A second detective enters, and they ask him about Erin's pregnancy.
Because she was pregnant with your child.
She wasn't pregnant with my child.
Maybe you really don't know. I don't know. But that's what she's telling everybody.
We know that you were going to meet her on Saturday. We know that. We know that you were going to go take her for a long drive and it was going to be a surprise. We know those things. Okay? We know that you met with her on Saturday morning, the day that she went missing.
Now detectives drop a bombshell. They ask Lee about a Google search he allegedly did just before Erin went missing, a search on how to dispose of a body.
One of them said a fire, but then I got into this huge debate how it takes a crematorium 8 hours to dissolve or to completely dissolve a body. Right. Fires are really ineffective. The best answer that the form gave was to eat them.
Eat the person? Mm-hmm. Cannibalism? Mm-hmm.
What Lee doesn't know, detectives have already matched the tires on his Jeep to the tracks found near Erin's car. But without a body, there's not enough yet to charge him with murder.
We have been searching nonstop for 8 weeks.
The chances of finding Erin alive are rapidly becoming slim to none.
An NCIS agent came to John's apartment and asked to speak with me, and they wanted to know what dentist we used so they could get dental records, which, that was rough. And I'm like, does that mean they found her, or are they just getting ready?
Erin is still out there, but where? Erin Corwin was hoping her walk in the desert with Chris Lee would end up in a walk down the aisle. What she never realized, he was actually walking her to her grave. But just where in the vast desert could that grave be? Investigators combing the search area in Joshua Tree National Park are perplexed.
We know that she is out there. It's just a matter of us trying to figure out exactly where.
And when detectives brought Lee into the station, he certainly wasn't helping in the frantic search for his friend.
I didn't see her on Saturday.
We also know that you were one of the last people to see her alive. Because something happened out there. We know that something happened out there. You know that something happened out there. So I want to believe that you're not a cold-blooded killer. That you didn't plan this. You didn't plan her murder. And you were going to go out there and you were just going to kill her. Just be a cold-blooded killer, kill her, get rid of her, and then go on with your life. Is that what happened?
No.
But without a body, the mountain of circumstantial evidence investigators had against Lee wasn't enough to file a murder charge until they talked to one of his friends.
He had actually gone with a friend of his, a civilian friend, like the week before, and they took pictures. Somehow the detectives found out about the pictures on this friend's cell phone.
There were pictures of Lee at a mine shaft. It proved to be a virtual gold mine of evidence for investigators.
For several weeks, searchers looked through every single mine shaft in this vast desert area like this one, not knowing the condition of them. Some you could walk into, others you had to rappel to look for Erin Corwin's body.
Detectives showed the photos to mine expert Doug Billings.
So I didn't have to look at a map. I knew exactly where I was anytime in any of the mines there, so I was able to help direct the rescue team.
Doug and his crew started at 3 a.m. before the hot summer sun turned the desert into a furnace. The old mine is fragile and dangerous, the wood frames rotting away from termites. They carefully rappelled down the shaft. And at the bottom, in the darkness below the earth, a body. The news was shocking.
The search concluded with the discovery of Erin Corwin's body in a 140-foot mine shaft.
Erin's grave, 140 feet under. Her body so badly decomposed, they couldn't initially determine if she was pregnant.
It was a Saturday night going into Sunday, saying they found a female body, and they asked us not to tell anybody so that Chris wouldn't disappear. They assured me that they had their eye on Chris all the time.
A half hour after Erin's body was found, police arrest Chris Lee in Anchorage, Alaska. He moved there with his wife and daughter after being honorably discharged from the Marines. Lee fought extradition, but eventually gave in and returned to California to face a murder charge.
And are you entering a not guilty plea at this point? Not guilty plea.
Then later, at his murder trial, a shocking reversal. Lee says he did it. He admitted killing Erin, recounting chilling details about how and why. Lee says they were just outside the mine and got into an argument. He says he came up from behind and strangled her with a homemade garrote. His death grip tightening on her neck, choking the life out of her. After 5 minutes of what had to be torture, he released his grip and Erin fell to the ground. Lee says he dragged her body to the mine, pushed her in head first, threw a propane canister down the shaft, and then tossed in a lighted torch.
And hours before, she texted a friend saying, "I think he's going to propose."
And you know, one of the things that haunts me to this day is wondering what she was thinking when he wrapped that garrote around her neck, when she was out there with somebody that she trusted, somebody that she thought loved her. You know, what was going through her mind?
Why did he kill her? I was controlled by the anger, he says. Unbelievably, he claims she molested his daughter, even though there is no evidence that ever happened.
It was a very offensive lie.
It was.
That outrageous claim greatly upset Erin's father, Bill, speaking exclusively to Crime Watch Daily.
What did you think when that came out of his mouth?
I thought it was crazy to put something like that, because it was not even something that anyone who knew Erin would even remotely think this was a possibility. I mean, anybody who knew her would look at that and go, really? It didn't work.
Yes, he confessed, but he couldn't even confess without bringing somebody else's character down with him.
The jury didn't buy Lee's flimsy excuse for killing Erin, convicting him of first-degree murder. Life without parole. Erin's mom says she's okay with Lee not receiving a death sentence.
Did you want that?
No.
Why?
With the death penalty, they're guaranteed multiple appeals. And I don't want to have to go through this any more than we've already gone through.
And now in the desert where Erin took her final breath, a memorial looking toward the entrance to the mine shaft where Lee callously tossed her body.
Erin's murder made headlines across the country, so her family left a note for everyone visiting this memorial site, asking them to sign this registry. And you'll see inside there's comments from strangers to family and friends.
And now a mother is left without her daughter. Laura finds comfort in this video.
Good boy.
Erin actually taught her cat how to obey commands.
Good boy.
When I want to hear her voice, I play that video.
Shake.
Is that the only video you have of her voice?
Yes.
Feels good to hear.
Feels good to hear.